Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Wahoos Weekly, your in-depth look at the Pensacola Blue Wahoos on the field and off. I'm broadcaster Eric Bramer. He's my broadcast partner, Charlie Hobart. And Charlie, first show of the second half. We're taping this without knowing whether or not the Blue Wahoos ended up as the first half champions, but the fact that we're even having that conversation is a testament to this team's resiliency after a pretty slow start.
I mean, 100%. They started off 0-5. Nothing was clicking. I mean, there's a lot of teams where different parts are clicking at different times. Beginning of the season, absolutely nothing was going right, but they've made some adjustments. They really got their heads in gear. They've played about 500 balls since that 0-5 start. They got contributions as of late from guys like Iva Arquette, Cam Canarella. Of course, before he was shipped off to AAA, Carson Milbrandt was, I would say, the best pitcher in AA baseball across the whole league. So a lot of different contributions, and I think we're all really happy that they're in the position that they're in right now.
Yeah, Carson Milbrandt, the Southern League Pitcher of the Month for May, certainly deserved that recognition and also deserved his promotion to AAA Jacksonville a couple weeks ago. And now that we're speaking of Carson in the past tense in the hopes that he's on to AAA and beyond for good, what impression did he leave on you in terms of his on-field demeanor as well as his personality off the field?
Man, he's just a gamer, you know? Like, it's kind of cliche to say, but he's really just a dog. He goes out there, he threw, 27 straight scoreless innings, and then off the field, he's a relaxed guy. He's very laid back. He really doesn't think too much. I remember asking him after one of the games, what has been the reason that you've been able to go this many innings scoreless? And his answer was 3 words: I don't know. So that's kind of how he carries himself on and off the field. He just rolls with the punches. He goes with the flow, and it's worked out thus far. I think it's going to keep working out for him.
I think my enduring memory of Carson will be his final start in Pensacola. As it turned out, his last start with the Blue Wahoos was on the road in Birmingham, but his final start at home struck out a bunch of guys, and on the last strikeout, our production crew got a great shot of him from the dugout, and he threw a changeup, which is probably, his 4th best pitch?
Yeah.
Got a swing and a miss, and you could see him going,
Yeah. See,
that's how we were all feeling as we watched Carson Milbrandt pitch this.
He knew how good he was,
Yeah.
and he should know how good he is. I mean, I think there is a decent chance, especially with all the injuries to starting pitchers these days, he could maybe see the field in Miami at some point. But like you said, that changeup is probably his 4th best pitch, but when he is so on, they're all his number 1. They're all his best pitch. He's got a high 90s fastball, great sweeper. He's got a good kick change. He's got a good curveball. They're all 3-0 pitches. They're all 2-strike pitches.
And we should note, he was also the very first guest on the first episode of Wahoos Weekly back before opening day. So thank you, Carson, for being the opening day starter, the opening day guest, and now hopefully we'll see you in the big leagues before too long. Blue Wahoos have had an impressive run of starting pitching. In fact, as we talk now, 5 of the last 6 Southern League Pitcher of the Week honors have gone to Blue Wahoos pitchers. We saw Brandon White, who's now at AAA. We saw Carson Milbrandt back-to-back weeks.
Yep.
We saw Eliezer Dishmay, who's had an outstanding start to his Blue Wahoos career. And then we saw Luis Palacios, old reliable, the winningest pitcher in Blue Wahoos history, get his 2nd Pitcher of the Week honors for 5 scoreless one-hit innings in Columbus a couple weeks back. Anytime a Blue Wahoo starting pitcher takes the mound, you could be seeing something special, and to see that coming from so many different guys really gives you a strong feeling that this is going to be a good season.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not coming from one archetype either. Brandon White, been there a few years, late 20s, he got that call, Carson Milbrandt coming in as the top pitching prospect on the Blue Wahoos. He's winning the award. Now Eliezer Dishmay, who's not a top 30 guy. He comes up, he throws 4 perfect innings and 5 no-hit innings. And then you got Luis Palacios, who, is Blue Wahoos baseball. He is the anchor. He's done everything the coaches have asked of him, and he's done it all well. So it's great to see these guys not only pitch well and get rewarded by their teammates with wins and rewarded by their coach, but get rewarded by the league because they really do deserve it.
Yeah, Eliezer Dishmay, who had a great start to his season with High A Beloit, joined the Blue Wahoos on the road in Birmingham a few weeks back. First start, we saw a little bit of maybe nerves in his AA debut, but second time out, he was nails. And if you look at, the metrics, grading out his different pitches, he's up there with some of the best in the Marlins organization. We saw that in evidence just that second start when he won Southern League Pitcher of the Week honors.
Yeah, he's got absolutely electric stuff. Everything works. All of his pitches, kind of like Milbrandt, when they're on, they're all 1 pitches. He doesn't toss anything to the side. He, in that start where he went 5 no-hit, I think he struck out the first 5 guys. He didn't give his defense a chance to make any plays. So when that is your second AA start, I think the floor is already a lot higher than it needs to be, and the ceiling I can't even see from down here.
Well, we actually have a ceiling here for the first time in this brand new studio. It looks great, doesn't it?
It's been raining this last week. I don't think I could be in a better spot to do the show right now, so I love it.
Oh yeah, Eliezer Dishmay in his second Double-A start took a perfect game into the fifth inning, a no-hitter into the sixth inning, and the Blue Wahoos seem to have transitioned away from the Carson Milbrandt era with potentially a brand new ace in Eliezer Dishmay. A couple new faces around the team. Iva Arquette, obviously the top-ranked prospect on this team, and he joined the Blue Wahoos a couple weeks ago in Birmingham. He too made a pretty strong first impression. He hit the seventh and final home run in the Rickwood game in Birmingham. That was a fun day, wasn't it?
I mean, fun is putting it lightly, Eric. One, to be in the ballpark. We talked about it so much leading up to it, but you can feel it. You can feel the soul and the history and everything that has to do with that park. And then to go out there, put up 23 runs. And for the young guns, Iva Arquette hit the seventh homer of the game, his first Double-A homer. Juan Matthews hit his first Double-A homer. It was such a magical day, and it was a great preview of the young guns that came up that day with Matthews and Arquette. And then Connor Cascanet, who returned.
Yeah, team records in runs, hits, and home runs in the span of about 3 hours on an afternoon in Birmingham. Iva Arquette then, a week later, had his second Double-A home run, and while it wasn't technically a walk-off, it's the type of game that we're going to remember for a while just because of how unusual it was, because it was, as it turned out, the final at-bat of the game, a game that was shortened by a rain. Blue Wahoos turned a loss into a win, and you never know, that might be the difference between winning the first half and coming up short.
I mean, 100%. It is as tight as a race can get right now. When we could all feel in that game the rain was starting to come on, and you saw the groundskeeper Willie Lawrence going out between every inning talking to the umpires. It felt like time was running short, and Arquette saw the last pitch of the game. Their starter was left in just a pitch too long, and he cranked it into the bay in left field, down two. It was a 3-run bomb. Gave him a 5-4 lead, and right after that, they tried to make a pitching change, but instead we put the tarp on the field. So we'll see, man. I mean, if the Wahoos are able to squeak out this victory for the division by one game, you can tip your cap to Iva Arquette for that.
Well, Iva Arquette has certainly made his mark offensively, but also we've been impressed with his defense. Primarily a shortstop for now. His size and his height especially has some people thinking that he might end up at a different position, but he's held his own at shortstop. He's played pretty well at second, and for the first couple times as a professional, we've seen him at third base, and it seems like he can handle all three pretty well.
Oh yeah, he's got pretty good range, especially for a guy who's 6'5". He's nifty with the glove, and he's got an absolute cannon for an arm, which helps when you're playing a position like shortstop. I mean, I don't think that kind of arm strength is a requirement for a shortstop, but it certainly doesn't hurt. I mean, any play he's going to make in the hole, he's got a better chance of gunning someone out than a lot of other shortstops.
Well, our guest here on this week's episode of Wahoos Weekly is Adron Chambers, a Pensacola native and a World Series champion. You, I think, met Adron briefly a couple weeks ago. He helped out with our Fred Waters baseball camp, and he's been around the ballpark a bit, still lives here in the Pensacola community. But I figured I'd just ask you, as you've gotten to know the Pensacola baseball scene, how special is it to have so many great former players who come from here, but also have chosen to live here in retirement?
It's special, and it's a testament to, I mean, the Blue Wahoos, but the city of Pensacola, you know? I mean, these guys, World Series champion, ex-big leaguers, they can kind of go and do whatever they want to do, but there's clearly such a strong sense of community and respect for those who have lived here and gone on to do great things here. They feel loved, they feel respected, and it makes sense that why would you want to go anywhere else? I mean, you've accomplished your goals, you've gotten your dreams under your belt. All right, I'll go back home. Let's hang in Pensacola, go see some Wahoos baseball.
Yeah, you grew up following the Milwaukee Brewers, so I'm not going to ask you to say anything nice about the St. Louis Cardinals, but that 2011 World Series, one of the greatest in our lifetimes. Do you have any memories of that 2011 series?
I mean, the David Freese homer, it was the David Freese series. I mean, I remember they were a wild card team that year. They knocked out my Milwaukee Brewers in the NLCS, and they were down to an out, and Nelson Cruz is able to haul in that ball. We're telling a different story, but he doesn't. Freese hits third, and then he hits the home run. We'll see you tomorrow night. It's one of the best World Series that I've been a part of in my lifetime.
Well, Adron Chambers was there to see it in person on that 2011 Cardinals team, and we'll be talking about that and much more when we come back here on Wahoos Weekly.
Welcome to Howard Young Flooring. We would like to invite you to visit our showroom and experience the perfect home flooring collection where shopping is easy and fun. At Howard Young Flooring, we look forward to covering your future.
At A1 Automotive, we do it all kinds of repairs for all kinds of vehicles. We do AC repairs, we do suspensions, we do pre-purchase inspections. We'll diagnose your problem and get it fixed. Free brake inspection. We can provide financing for any work we do. Veteran-owned, military, and first responders discounts. A1 Automotive, 403 Beverly Parkway, Pensacola.
Nestled in the heart of Pensacola, Dorothy's is a one-of-a-kind, community-driven cocktail bar by Oasis, Florida, created to sustain vital HIV and STI care across the Florida Panhandle. Inspired by the Wizard of Oz, rooted in inclusion and dripping with character, Dorothy's is a welcoming space with award-winning Oz-inspired cocktails, food by Steel Pony Diner, and an unmatched atmosphere. Join us 7 days a week in downtown Pensacola, located directly across from Maritime Park and the Blue Wahoos Stadium.
Gilmarine, your one-stop shop for all your boating needs. We offer a vast selection of parts, accessories, and electronics. Discover our range of used boats in every size, shape, and brand, all ready to get you on the water today. And we provide expert advice and top-notch customer service to ensure you have the best boating experience. We service all outboard, inboards, stern drives, jet drives, and personal watercraft. Our certified staff will get you back on the water. Visit Gilmarine at 3541 West Fairfield Drive, Pensacola.
This place that I call
I want to explain it to her like you.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Wahoos Weekly. I'm Blue Wahoos broadcaster Eric Bramer, and this week our special guest is Pensacola native and 2011 World Series champion Adron Chambers. Adron, thanks for joining us today.
Man, thank you for having me today, man. Wahoos is something that I actually wanted to play for the Wahoos at one time, you know, but thank you. I really appreciate this.
Well, pretty cool to have you here in our Blab TV studios because this is your neighborhood.
Yes.
You know, you've got your uncle has a park named after him
That's
just
right.
down the road, and you know this area very well.
Yes, sir. Henry Wire Park. It's a park that we use to play baseball, you know what I mean? Stickball, if you will. And my Uncle Henry, he was most definitely somebody that the community loved because he always brought attention and awareness to sports and kids being active and things like that. And I did grow up, you know, 3 blocks up the street, you know. Back then, it was kids all in the neighborhood, you feel me? It was one of them opportunities. It was one of them things that it was like somebody was gonna make it because it was so many people playing sports. You know what I mean? It was a very rich neighborhood, you know, of athletes and things like that. But, you know, even now, it's still beautiful over here.
Well, I want to start there. Start at the beginning. How did you fall in love with not just sports in general, because you're a very good athlete,
No doubt.
across a couple different sports, but how did you fall in love with the game of baseball?
My brothers, you know, my mom had 8 kids, 4 girls, 4 boys. My brother Steve was the closest to me, and he's probably more of a baseball technician than me. You know, he knows everything, the little details. And seeing him in the backyard playing with his older friends, I wanted to be with him. And my mom made him take me along too. So I was able to learn from some older boys that weren't giving in to none of my young bull crap. And it was one of them things that, you know, I learned quickly. I learned easily, I guess you could say, when I played against the younger people, and I fell in love with football and baseball. Baseball was the first sport, but my brothers, they instilled that in me. When I got knocked down, they made me get up, you know, and I had to get up or they were gonna beat me up, you feel me? So my brothers most definitely were the most influential when it came to sports.
You had your brothers. How did you establish maybe internally that not only did you enjoy sports, but you were pretty darn good at it?
Well, it was my brothers that kept encouraging the idea. You know, it wasn't just a touchdown. It wasn't just a, you know, interception. You know, block for your teammates. Be a teammate. Pass the basketball. You know, it was things that they were teaching me that I started really understanding and learning and using to where when I was in the neighborhood, I was the one saying, hey, let's go play a game of football, everybody. We'll pick our sides, and that's when that appreciation and love started coming in, when everybody else started seeing that I loved it and I cared and they wanted to do it too. Even though they weren't as interested as me, they wanted to do it because they seen that I enjoyed it, So it was most definitely something that I feel like my brothers embedded into my brain big time.
I've asked this question of a few of our guests, Kevin Soche, Mike Russell, Dan Shugart. We've had a lot of really good athletes across several different sports come out of Pensacola. You can count yourself among them. Something in the water, what is it?
Yes, for real. As a matter of fact, we didn't even go to the beach as much as you would think we would, being from Pensacola. But I do think it is something over here that, when you have Roy Jones running up and down, the streets, preparing for a fight, Emmitt Smith, spinning and scoring, Derrick Brooks and Don Sutton, like you seeing so many guys that are showing you no fear at the highest level. I think it was just, something that these guys and the guys before them, we wanted to continue that. When you see Roy, you want to be like Roy. I cut my hair like Roy when I was young. I ran like Roy. I did everything. Matter of fact, people would say I look like Roy. And, now that I'm a man, obviously I had to, find my own self. But, these guys right here were examples for us. And we used them because they were, especially being so hands-on. Derrick Brooks went to church with me. You know what I mean? So these guys were most definitely like, they were next to you, so it felt like you could be like them. You know what I mean? And yes, I do think it's something in this water around here in Pensacola, big time.
You mentioned the phrase finding yourself. You went away to play football. Perhaps at one point that was the dream, to become a professional football player. Then you came back and played baseball here locally. Yeah. How did that shift in your mentality help you grow as a person?
Well, I to be honest with you, and I love the Wahoos. That's why I'm appreciating the questions, because it goes deep. I got a big wake-up call by, Hamilton, Coach Hamilton over there at Pensacola Junior College at the time. He told me, like, you're a great athlete, but man, this is baseball. You can't treat anybody the way you want to treat them. You gotta, have respect for the game, have some integrity, think, you know what I mean? And, being able to have men like that show me that, it was a struggle in the beginning, because I come from football. We just knock your head off. You know what I mean? Mississippi State Bulldogs, we had that bulldog mentality. So, and even at Pensacola High School, at Myrtle Grove, growing up playing football, it's nothing like baseball. That's why I love the game of baseball. But that transition was most definitely a struggle, something that I had to fight, but I kept with it. And because of Doug Martin and Bill Hamilton, they most definitely helped me, encouraged me to continue it, and ultimately some good things happen.
Take me back to draft day. Someone took a chance on you, a round that doesn't even exist anymore in the MLB draft. Take me back. What were you expecting to happen on that day, and how did it live up to your expectations?
I didn't know anything, to be honest with you. I was so engulfed in football that baseball was like, I love David Justice. And it was because he dated Halle Berry. You know what I mean? I didn't have an interest like I did in football. So even on that day when the Cardinals, I went to a tryout, they told me right there, we're going to draft you in the last round. We're going to give you $50,000. Take it or leave it right now. And me not knowing better, I took it. And so I was waiting on the call. My mom was in the chair. We was at the house. And when we got the call, it was one of those things for me at the time was like, okay, this is my chance to really become whether it was football or baseball, who I know I'm capable of. My mom, I always grew up having her encourage me. My brothers encouraged me, like I said. So I wanted to do it for her. You know what I mean? I wanted to live up to the person that she thought I can be. You know what I mean? So that day was very special because I was able to see my mother smile. And ultimately, I think that's what every young man wants, is for their mother to be proud of them.
Here in 2026, it's still not for the faint of heart, minor league baseball, and the life that you have to live to do it. But it's a whole lot better now than it was back when you were in the minors. So take me back. What do you remember about that time working your way up to the big leagues?
Stirrups, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, curfews, collared shirts. I mean, the Cardinals, one thing I can say, and I hated it then, the Cardinal way is a real thing. They were Ozzie Smith, Willie McGee. You know, these guys were gentlemen. You know, they taught you how to have integrity. You know, Red Shinning, we talk about Stan Musial. I was around some of the greatest Cardinals to ever live, and they had integrity about how they went about business. I think, you know, for me, that's what it was all about. You know what I mean? When I think about sports, even now, when I think about baseball, I think about the St. Louis Cardinals, you know? So even though I hated it, I think it was a structure that was necessary, big time. And it is different. And sometimes I wish you would go back to that, because now they're eating steak and lobster and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, it's still beautiful. I love going to the Wahoos. I'm seeing these young men, but being able to have, you know, Ozzie Smith look at you, and it wasn't no robot out there taking those ground balls. It was a real man making mistakes, getting better, taking the 200 ground balls, sweating, dirty, terrible cleats, hurt hands, but they didn't care. You know what I mean? I was gonna get the job done. I was gonna, you know, do what I had to do. You know, so it's most definitely different. You know, I hate to talk about it like that, because now they don't like us, you know, talking about the old school baseball, this new stealing and one pickoff and time. Like David Ortiz would take all day playing with his, you know what I mean? It was different. The game was different. But yes, it's still a beautiful game. I ended there. It's still a beautiful game.
Everyone who makes it to the major leagues has a call-up story. Some are more unique than others, but I don't think I've heard yours. How did you find out you were going to the big leagues?
Nice. It was the last game of the season. Chris Maloney, we called him Hammer. He was our manager. And I actually had a really good year that year. You know, I hit 10 home runs, more than I ever hit before.
This was in Memphis?
It was in Memphis, Tennessee. But it was the last day, and you know, during that time, I'm still green. I was still green to the idea of getting called up, because I just basically went through the minor leagues, just, you know, finishing the season where I was. I think it was one time where I got called up. No, twice. I take that back. But I got in trouble during the season for being late to a game one day, you know? So I never was in the office of Maloney. I never really got in trouble, you know, when it came to our team. But this last day, he calls me into his office, and I'm like, oh man, what did I do? You know what I mean? Like I was green. And he sat me down, and Budaska was in there with me, Buddha. He was our hitting coach. Blaze was in there, who was our pitching coach. And we sat there, and he looked at me and started crying. And I'm like, I must have did something really bad. This man over here crying, right? But he gave me the biggest hug, and he told me I should call my mom right now. And that's when it kind of clicked, like, yeah, he's finna tell me something good, you know? And eventually he was like, man, I'm so proud of you and everything you had to go through, because I did have a journey. You know, I wrote a book about it, you know, from Pensacola to the World Series, talking about that journey. A lot of good decisions, a lot of bad decisions. Being able to have people like him, again, it's just like my brothers, you know, that appreciation, that love, that acceptance of somebody that made a lot of mistakes. Making them proud made it worth it. It made me want to go out there and die for that ball, when, you know, I might be sacrificing some things, you know. So that was a wonderful day. Matter of fact, thank you for that question. That was a beautiful day.
Sometimes September call-ups, they're coming up, last place team, just as, you know, recognition of time served. But you were added to the team because they felt you could help them in a playoff race. You were thrown right into the thick of things in what turned out to be a pretty memorable season for the Cardinals. Yes. Quite a whirlwind, I imagine. What are your memories from that time?
Man, earlier in that season, David Freese he went back down to the minor leagues for a rehab assignment. That game, I hit 2 home runs, and I still remember David saying, "Hey man, you gonna get there," you know. So when I got there, I had that mentality of like, I'm finna do whatever I gotta do to stay here. Matter of fact, Mark McGwire walked up to me the first day. Imagine one of the greatest home run hitters walking up to you, and he looked me straight in my eyes and said, "Okay, you got here. Now you got to figure out how to stay here." And that was his first, and walked off. You know what I mean? I was like, oh crap, what have I got myself into? But being able to have guys like Albert Pujols, Yadier Molina, Chris Carpenter, Rafael Furcal, Ryan Theriot, Edwin Jackson, Arthur Rose. I mean, Ryan Franklin. I mean, the list can go on. Corey Patterson. Being able to see how they went about business, it made me want to go about business the right way. And because of that, man, I was diving in practice. They were laughing at me. And Tony the Rooster would bring me into his office and be like, don't stop. Don't stop doing that. You know what I mean? He would tell me these things. And to me, it made him trust me to where when he wanted to add me into the game, it wasn't going to be no less. You know what I mean? It was going to be the same expectations. And I came through. And because of me coming through with those few at bats, my defense, my running ability, you know, I was able to be on that World Series, the playoff team, and eventually the World Series team.
I could talk to you for another 20 minutes about just that, September and October.
Man.
But before this episode ends, I wanted to ask you about the shirt you're wearing, the hat you're wearing, and what you're doing now in the community to help the next generation of baseball players.
I'm the baseball coach, the head coach over at Pine Forest High School now, coaching young men. I heard my man Charlie talking about his love for the game of baseball and how we have come back. Roy Jones, you still see the guys, Fred Robbins, in the community. I felt like it was very important for me to come back and show that love. I started Swing Champ to be able to train young people. We also do speaking engagement. I just wrote a new book, Watch Out for the Curve, a story about Curvy, about going through his ups and downs, kind of similar to my life. And yeah, man, Swing Champ is something that I feel like obviously the city of Pensacola knows now, but we also are ready to grow. I'm ready to work with the Wahoos. I'm always doing the camps over here at the Wahoos. They always show me love. Quint Studer is a great, person that, helped me when it comes to just the involvement. I remember he gave me a key to the batting cage, not this one, but the old one. So being able to have that kind of love and respect from that person, I want to be able to use that and help the baseball. We talked about that earlier. I want to help the baseball around here. And I think having the Wahoos is a great thing to do that too.
Well, thank you, Adron, for
man.
joining us. And
Yes, sir.
thank you for joining this episode of Wahoos Weekly.